All right, good evening, and welcome once again to our seminar series, the Dr. AMRIE Morris-Patterson G.I.F.T Foundation, Grief Intervention, and Freedom from Trauma Foundation seminar series that we've been hosting since the start of this year. How time flies, and we're almost at the end of 2024. And we are, this evening, looking at, continuing our look at the family. Our topic last time was family foundations, and we are continuing with part 2 of that very, very important topic. I think we all appreciate the role that families play in our society, in our country, and across the world. The family is a foundational unit of society. We touched on quite a few issues related to the family last time, and we're going to continue or culminate our discussion. This evening we have, as usual, a very well-qualified panel with us to carry out this discussion. Unfortunately, 2 of our panelists from part 1 were not able to make it, so in the providence of the Lord, we have 2 persons to fill in for them. We have, to my immediate right, Brother Fillmore Isaacs, Elder Fillmore Isaacs, a distinguished public servant of many years. He was telling me that reminding me he's now retired. And he's not here in that capacity. He's a former Chief Agricultural Officer of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But he's here in his capacity as a local church leader, as well as a father of adult children. And he was telling me he's also now a grandfather still. But he'll tell us more about that in a bit. We have returning this evening Brother Colville Thorpe, school counselor, psychologist, and our newest panelists this evening, one of the new panelists this evening, we have Sister, I should say Mrs. Lenora Aki Ambris, school counselor, said, of many, many years, also a mother, and she'll tell us a little bit more about herself in terms of her family. And we have also returning with us psychologist with the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Ms. Elika Matthews. All right, so those are our panelists, and we're going to have a good discussion as we try to wrap up this look at the family. All right, so I'm going to ask our newest recruits to the panel to give us a little family context. The last time we asked the panelists to say where they fell in their family, what is their family background. So we want to ask our new panelists to give us a little glimpse of their family background.
Okay, I am the 3rd child of my mom, the 2nd of my father. So that should tell you that I am not from the typical nuclear family, as may be required of a Seventh-day Adventist. Yeah. Both my parents are dead. I have surviving 2 sisters on my mom's side and 2 brothers on my father's side. I have 2 grown sons, both married. One has 2 children, boy and a girl. The boy is currently Form 4, Mountain View, and the girl has just entered the girls' high school, Form 1. And the second son has a 3-year-old. So, I'm a family man.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good night to everyone. As was mentioned, my name is Leonora Aki Ambris. I am Aki by birth, Ambris by marriage. I am from a large family. I'm the sandwich. I am the cheese in the sandwich. So we have 2 halves of the bread, and I'm slicing the middle of the bread. So my mother and father, they both have 9 children. So I am the 5th of the 9. So I'm sandwiched between. Like I said, I'm married. I have 2 children of my own, 1 boy, 1 girl. Boy is in college and the girl is in secondary school.
All right, thanks very much. That's quite a good context. And it shows that we have this, diversity of family experiences as we contemplate, the various factors that affect our families and how we can improve them, right? So the last time we looked at, what is the family, the basic functions of the family as a unit of socialization, of setting values, and so on. We looked at the fact arising out of Dr. Gary Collins' work that while we sometimes, or we often lament, when we're discussing social issues, it goes back to the home. The reality is that, at least according to the research that Dr. Collins cites, most families are not dysfunctional, right? Most families, not all families are, no family is perfect, but most families are not dysfunctional. Now, that is not to say that even though, really dysfunctional families may be in the minority, you can have a minority that creates a lot of problems, right? So you do need to be concerned, even though very dysfunctional families may be in the minority. It says that there are issues that could spill over into other families and affect other homes, right? So it's very important not to belittle that, right? So we looked at a few other issues and persons gave some of their own experiences. I encourage persons to look back at part 1 if you missed that. And interestingly enough, and sadly, there's a case I shared with the panelists. I'm going to get their feedback on this. There was a case noted in the Jamaica Observer of the caption in the newspaper was "Jealous Rage." A lover, the male lover of this young woman, they had a falling out. They had a disagreement of some kind. The news did not say exactly what was the issue, but they had a falling out, and the gentleman literally set fire to the house, and in so doing, 7 other houses also burnt. 30 persons, including 10 children, lost their homes as a result of the jealous rage of this, one man who was part of this couple. I don't know if they were, it says lover. It didn't seem that they were married, but you could call it a family unit, or it's a household, right? And it's quite a very graphic object lesson, as to in terms of what we're really getting at here. One family's situation, one family's problems or challenges can spill over into the neighborhood, to their neighbors and to the neighborhood, and affect, very adversely the lives of other families. And it happens in less graphic ways all the time, right? I don't know what, let me get from the panelists what their thoughts are on this. The news was so significant in Jamaica that the Prime Minister did a tour of the burned homes, and they were providing counseling for the families and so on. What does this, if you were maybe a counselor, if you were asked to be a counselor in this situation, what are your thoughts on this incident?
So as you noted, we possibly don't know the extent of their relationship, but it was noted that they were in a relationship. They could consider each other family. It could have been strong. It can be close-knit. And this is just an example of what happens when family units break apart. It can impact the individual, both individuals, and it can also impact other people closely related to the situation. And this is in part why we can't just talk about how families cope and how families deal with situations. We also have to look at the individual and how they cope with matters individually. Because a broken family now means he wanted to destroy others. And that is a very extreme way to react to a situation, as opposed to this relationship has ended. How can I improve myself so moving forward, I can build better close-knit family relationships?
Yes, thank you.
I think one of the things that can be done generally is, education-wise, is in teaching persons how to deal with or how to cope with situations if and when they arise. Because none of us know or knows what situation we will be in. But when we get the education or when we get the information as to how to deal with or how to cope with, we'll be better able to manage, and so it would not cause a ripple effect.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Anybody else want to comment?
A rather unfortunate situation that those families had to go through that ordeal. I'm thinking about the young man, and as we are discussing families, I can't help but think what kind of family he was raised in and how his, socialization, we spoke about that the last time, would have affected his present decision to do what he did. And of course, also, I'm thinking about whether or not he was in a normal frame of mind, the kind of individual that he is. So that's something to consider and ponder on, the kind of family that young man was raised in.
Yes, it's quite a disturbing situation. The news noted that these families would have lost a lifetime in some cases of building their physical homes and all that was invested there, but also memories. And it's one of the persons in the community was commenting how this community is a very close-knit community. Everybody know everybody kind of thing. It's very connected. So somehow I got the impression that the person who did the arsonist, that's the term, might have been an outsider. All right. Not sure about that, but it says something about the fact that the person noted that the community is very, very close. It reminds me of something else, because one of the most current things in the news right now, and a Facebook friend and I were having a little debate. We know the very well-known rapper who has been charged recently. I won't call any names lest I get in trouble. But the person, this friend of mine, was commenting that this is not his business, right? What is happening with this well-known rapper, the allegations and whatever, is not his business. And I said, well, it technically is not your business. I mean, it's not affecting you in terms of your day-to-day life, life goes on for you. But don't you think there is some influence that this person has, some impact that the lifestyle and the celebrity status of this person, some impact that has on society? The fact that we idolize these persons, don't you think that in some sense it may be our business? Maybe is it that, I don't know what the panelists may think about this, but to me sometimes we take maybe too much of a back seat. We say, okay, that's their business over there. That will have nothing to do with me and my family. Or does it? You have to ask yourself when it comes to these things.
In fact, this story also said that the young man had mentioned it to somebody, and the person didn't take it seriously. And this is one of the mistakes sometimes we make, talking about society or not my business. Here is somebody who said, I am going to do. And whoever received the message, nah, he would never do that. Many families have gone through traumatic experiences as a result of people not taking them seriously. When a threat is made, it must be taken seriously. And as Colville was hinting, maybe there might have been another family member who could have talked to him, to calm him, to show him a different way. But by ignoring it, it escalated and tragedy.
Yeah, so it's one of those, again, tragic situations, and I just want to, and encourage, and for persons who are listening in, do not adopt this attitude of it's not my business. But I want to challenge, put this to the panelists. When is it wise to actually say it's not my business? Are there times when you should separate yourself? And when do you intervene, and when do you, say, okay, let me just stay out of this? That very often happens. When you have domestic disputes, very often that's the case. We know the story so often of people saying, oh, the police didn't respond because to a reported incident because that is man and woman thing, so to speak. Right? So how do we navigate that? So how do we decide, okay, this is something I should get involved with? Since you're talking about family intervention, that's one of the issues that we're looking at right now. The extent to which we should, poke our nose in, so to speak, and when should we step back or stay back?
So we all know right from wrong. So it would be the initial feeling that when we see something going awry in the home environment that we have to intervene. And that's the same for if we see something going wrong with neighbors, something going wrong with family members that we love. And I am of the opinion that sometimes you have to ask yourself, are persons in a position to hear what you have to say, especially in a family situation? Oftentimes we want to intervene, we have good intentions, but sometimes it may be best to ask ourselves, is there another family member that would be better placed to help intervene? Because I can come with all good intention, but because we do not have that relationship, you may not want to listen to me. Or because I am not in your situation, you may not want to listen to me. So for example, disciplining children. People may be for it, people may be against it. And there may be persons who say, well, I don't want anybody who doesn't have children to tell me how to discipline my children. Or you are not within my family environment, so you may not understand the method in which I choose to discipline, explain things to my children. So we can choose to say, yes, let us intervene at this point, but you also have to decipher, is there another family member, somebody else who would be better placed to give the message? Because we can both be saying the same thing, but we don't hear it because of who that message is coming from.
So when I look at intervention, I am looking at it don't have to be directly you, but you can intervene in a way where you can get someone else. For instance, I may not be a family member, but I know of a family member who can help the person. So I can refer the situation to that family member, so that family member can probably intervene directly. Also, if it would bring bodily harm to you, then you have recourse that you can take. You can call those persons who are in authority who can actually physically intervene to maybe stop further harm or to help save that individual. But when we take a back seat and say it's not my business, then as I said earlier, it can cause a ripple effect, and then it can eventually become your business because you yourself can get harmed in this situation. So it's always important that you intervene in some way, whether by calling someone who can actually do the work to stop the situation from getting worse.
Well, I understood the question to mean if we should intervene in the matters of the celebrities. That's what I thought you meant, right?
Generally speaking.
In terms of, when I say, because I was going to say, what do you mean intervene? But I think the other panelists probably understood the question the way you intended. But I would still speak from the perspective of what I understood in terms of us getting involved or being concerned with matters of celebrities, right? They have an influence upon the world, right? And there are definitely situations where whatever they are going through can be conversation starters for our families, right? So whatever situation the person you didn't mention, but alluded to, whatever situation he's going through, we could use that experience and have a discussion of it with your families and say, you know, if this X, Y, and Z thing was happening within here, you know, how would we deal with it? Or if we see it over there, you know, you could teach, you know, your peers and possibly, you know, children, how they would speak up about situations that they see. Right? Whether it's come in and tell somebody of the same family or somebody, you know, close in relation. So I think, to answer your question, there are times when it's necessary, I think, I use the word necessary, to speak about some of the things that are going on in the public sphere.
And learn lessons. There are valuable lessons that you can learn from them. And, you know, it raises a question, right? Well, two things occurred to me. One is celebrity families or TV families, right? And the extent to which families know each other. So the first one, let me take the second one first. This knowing each other, knowing when you should intervene, or the issue of, does a family member know you enough or have enough confidence in you to allow you to intervene, whether directly or through somebody else? So it raised a question in my mind. The factors, how well do we know our families now versus, say, 20, 30 years ago? How connected are we? Have we grown more or less connected as families within a society? And what may be the factors that account for that? I mean, I grew up in a we call it, in Jamaica, we call it a ghetto community, right? And even within that, I mean, the extent to which families interacted, a lot of factors, it's very dynamic, but you tended to be closer to people. You have closer interactions. It's not like you live in a townhouse or, you know, those kind of you're not in Beverly Hills, right? But you're in a neighborhood in which, on a day-to-day basis, you are interacting with people one-on-one to a greater extent, right? So you're not as isolated. And I'm wondering, generally speaking, right, do we have enough opportunities maybe for our families or children, young people, apart from school, I'm talking in the community, for families to interact, to know each other? Or are we more standoffish now? Or are we more isolated now? And what may account for that? And then the other question, follow-up I had was, can you think of like a positive television family, right? I'm looking at how families are depicted in the media, right? Can you think of like a family on TV that, well, you could distinguish. I know, right? You have reality TV, so you could say, I'm looking at more the sitcom type family, or you know, the television fictional drama family. That you could say, okay, that family was a good representation of, in a balanced way, of what family should be. I know that's a double-barrel question, but you could take the first part first in terms of the isolation. How isolated or not are our families today?
I would think that families are not connected as before. communication or lack of communication within the family unit. They're not communicating effectively with each other. You're in the same house, but I'm in one room, you're in one room, and then we are on you want a message to go over to me, but you text me the message. So to me, when you are face-to-face, you're able to see the facial expression, you're able to see the mannerism and all of that. And there's certain things that you can read from just the action of the person than just, so the connection that should be is not there. And I think that is why we're having a breakdown in the family unit or in the family functions and so on, because they're not connected as before. I could have gone, long ago, you had the extended family, even if extended in that, we may not be living in the same household as an extended family, but my grandmother lived right here and my auntie lived right here.
Close by,
and mommy could have run to granny and asked for her opinion or suggestion in helping raising or nurturing us. Today you don't have that, and like sister said here, I think it's Brother Patterson mentioned it, we kind of standoffish. It's not my business. I think the sister mentioned it. It's not my business because today you cannot even discipline children, whether you see a child misbehaving or saying something, you cannot speak to them because that's another problem. So I am thinking lack of communication is what are not causing the connectivity as before.
Is it also that, sometimes people fear the response they might get? People say, I'm not getting involved because
yes, that too, because
they're
of
going
the
to get cussed
change,
out or something.
right? Because of the change in the societal view or societal concept or the way in which society accepts things now. So that's probably why a lot of persons prefer to stay out of it, because long ago I couldn't talk to my elder in a particular way because my elder would beat me, and when I go home, I can't tell mommy, because if I tell mommy, I would get licks again, but that can't happen today. So again, it has to do with the societal change and what is accepted now in the society that what was accepted then. And that's probably what is causing the breakdown in families. And I normally say that the family is the microcosm of the society. So when we have breakdown in the family, it spills off in the society. So yeah, obviously the society is not isolated from families, because families is what make up the society. So once we have a breakdown there, we're going to have a breakdown here. And all of us would be affected. No matter how you try to pull yourself out, you will be affected in some way.
One of the fundamental ways in which the society has changed is the emphasis today of the independence of the individual rather than the interdependence that used to be in the family setting. I grew up in Bible, a village. I knew my uncles, my aunties, the cousins who came off of them. And there was the big yard in which we met from time to time. And in fact, the wider community met on moonlight nights. So there was that interaction, interdependence, people offering this to that, and so forth. Today, it's isolation. The emphasis is on the individual. So society has changed fundamentally, and we can't change, society can't change and expect other things to remain the same.
So that, if we want to remedy, the situation, where do we go? Isn't it? You can't expect the young people to do it because it's not entirely their fault, right? In terms of where we are. So isn't it up to the older ones, the more mature ones among us, to bring back some of those things, and how do we go about doing that?
I'd like to challenge any forum that has been, and people like to say bring back, because it's not always about bringing back, right? It's creating something new, right?
Okay, all right.
Before you ask the question, I was thinking about the solution, and we have to be very, very intentional about spending time with family. I am young, right? So my young days wouldn't be the same, right? So I can't say that I share the experience that they would have had. but there has to be intentionality to connect with, listen to this, right? There's nuclear family, then there's your cousins, then there's church family, then there's your family interacting with your neighbor family, with another neighbor, right? So there's a lot of different places that you need
a lot of dynamics,
right? Yeah. And don't talk about technology. He said something about moonlight this, right? Somebody might, in my day and age, might quicker put a picture of the moon and they catch it to look at, right? So you have to be very, 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 very intentional about spending time with your family, because in the older time before my time, it would just happen, right? Naturally. We hang out the same place. People didn't even have access to transportation as much. So the radius of where you could have gone is still small, right? So you have to be intentional, literally put it on a calendar. We're going to spend this time with this family member, with these cousins. Have to be intentional about it.
That's a good point. My family right now is somewhat dispersed. I mean, not my own family, but even now it's somewhat dispersed. My older daughter is away studying. Thank God for WhatsApp and telecommunication. All right. But my siblings, we are quite dispersed. We're in different countries. So again, we communicate quite a bit through, Facebook, WhatsApp, telephone communications to try to keep those family ties. And, now and then we'll have physical visits, of course, that is prohibitive because of the cost of traveling and all that, all right? But you're so right. It's important to be purposeful about it so that you maintain, that connection. It's, just like, think of an analogy of a plant. You don't just get a harvest or, get fruits unintentionally. You have to be purposeful. You have to water, you have to nurture, you have to provide the nutrients, the sunlight, all of these things in order for that relationship or for that plant to grow, and similarly for relationships to thrive. So the other issue I was raising was how families. I remember some years ago, right? I was on a radio program discussing fathers and fatherhood, and the fact that a lot of what we're seeing now in relation to deviant behavior and so on has to do with the status of fatherhood, right, or absence of fathers. And if the father is present, I think, what do you call it? Presenteeism or something like that? He's present, but he's not engaged, right? Or not doesn't have that relationship, right? And one of the things I think I took away from that was that we do not have enough role models being put before us of good fathers, good mothers. Well, maybe mothers tend to get a better rap. Good couples, long-lasting marriages, people who have been married for 30, 40 plus years. You don't see these persons being featured then. At least I don't see. I find we don't big them up as much as, and it's not depicted much in popular media, all right, television shows and so on. They tend to show persons who are more, I guess they're trying to be realistic, as they would say, but you don't tend to have positive role models of couples, families being portrayed. Or is that just my perception?
Well, I always say, growing up in church, I have an advantage. This is me talking personally, right? Because he spoke about having positive role models, and just by saying that, like 4 or 5 people could just triple off in my head about persons who I have. And a long time ago, I heard, what you look for, you would find it, right? So if you're looking at this society with a specific lens to see the problems and the issues, then you would see issues. If you're looking at it to see solutions and to see good, you would find good. So there are families that are portrayed in the media, right? I would say that. I won't give any examples at least not now. maybe later in the conversation, right? So I'm talking about, we're talking fictitious, or even, well, nobody comes to mind when we talk about reality, like media, TV kind of thing. But definitely in terms of fictitious, sitcoms and that kind of thing, there are lessons that I've learned from those type of shows that are still, with me today, right? Yeah. So there is, if you look at the world, you can see good, right? But if you keep looking for bad, you will find it.
Right. Okay. So you can think of probably one of the most popular ones would be the Cosby show. I would have watched a few, well, several episodes of the Cosby Show, and you got some. You're right. You got some positive lessons from them. Yes.
The thing about that, though, is that it's an American family style portrayed there. That is the problem here.
On a Caribbean version.
Let's come back now to, you were talking about man. I think in our society we're missing something. Are we intentional in teaching our boys what it means to be a man? First of all, what does it mean to be a man? Then what does it mean to be a father? We take it for granted that he's growing up and he will learn. That's right, by observation, but we are not saying this is what it means to be a man.
Mentoring system.
This is what it means to be a father. This is what it means to be a husband. And very often we wait until 2 weeks or a couple of days before the people get married to begin counseling. Whereas we have had time, when we have camps, I think our camps need to look again at what they do. Why don't we pull off the boys, pull off the girls, begin there at 13, 14, this is what it means to be a man. This is what it means to be a husband. This is what it means to be a father. I have a book here called Her Story, Black Female Rites of Passage. And this is where this lady is saying how you engage a black girl, but this is really American, to train her, because it used to be done in Africa. But as we move across the passage, we have lost all of that. They still carry it out. At 11 or 12, boys are pulled out and they're trained how to be men in the tribe or whatever it is. In the Caribbean, we have lost it. So the girls grow up, nobody really tell them what it means to be a woman, what it means to be a wife, what it means to be a mother, and then we complain about so much things happening in this society, but we have to blame. Maybe, though, all has not been lost. We could begin to, this is a forum to stimulate the conversation and to carry it on further to action.
Yeah, yes,
when you said rite of passage, that I can remember there's a literature book that we read in secondary school. Red Coats or something. I remember those soldiers in the story, and I think part of the rite of passage, you had to go and hunt or something like that, right? And I think we need something like that. If you look at the Africans, there's some of the cultures, there's the ceremonies that they do. The Jewish people have bar mitzvah and quinceañeras, right? I think that is something, for me, I think all cultures should have something like that, because it creates a shift in the mentality of the individual. Like, more is expected of me now, right? And it puts them in a different position. And that would be something that's so cool to have, like, as a part of our context here.
Yes.
I think if we follow the Bible principle, we wouldn't go wrong. Because somewhere, I think it's in Ephesians of one of those books that says the older women shall teach the younger women. Yeah, so if we follow the precept of God, we wouldn't go wrong. And as Calvin said earlier, we have to be intentional in what we do. The Bible tells us also that we have to teach the children. We have to pass it from generation to generation. And I think in the last discussion where we said mothers are becoming younger, we have teen mothers and mothers are becoming younger. They are learning themselves. So we, the older mothers, we have to teach the younger mothers what it is if we want to have a society that is progressive with good values. Because these children are not just going to learn values off the bat. We have to teach them. So I am thinking we have to go back to the Word of God.
The basics. Yeah, I'm trying to get us to steer towards the end, right? So unfortunately, our time is running out again. But very good points. Intentionality, I think, is one of the things that is coming out very, very strongly here. And mentorship is what I'm also hearing. I'm thinking about my own experience growing up. Each of us can relate, could relate. Who are the persons? How were you taught the importance of family? Was apart from hearing maybe in a guidance counseling class at school, or a presentation somewhere, or reading in a book, or it was demonstrated to you, all right, by your parents or aunties, uncles, you got a sense, okay, you're a part of this family, this is what it means. I remember an aunt of mine saying something about Patterson men. And I won't say what she said, but there's something about Patterson men, all right? And so it gave me a sense, okay, certain things are expected, or this is what you should live up to, right? So that point that Brother Isaac brings out here, it makes me think of our men's ministries, for example, in our churches. They may come in different formats, and women's ministries, for example, and by extension in the society, other groups that have or can have programs of mentoring. We have the police, we have the Coast Guard, we have, various groups. I saw last week, I think it was the Girl Guides, they had like a rally in Barley, all right, some anniversary, 100 and something year anniversary of the Girls Guides. Pathfinders just had their 74th anniversary celebration. There was another group that had, I think Grammar School had a anniversary march as well, and rally. So there are different agencies in the society, and this is our last question, really. That's the second to last question. How can these agencies, help to foster this mentorship? So we have the school, we have NGOs as representative of the society, and then we have churches, all right, and then you have government entities. How can we, what more can we do specifically to help to, foster this kind of mentorship in an intentional way? I mean, we have programs, I'm sure there are programs, but is there anything more? Do we need to intensify? Do we need more money? Is money the answer, or is there more to it? All right, I'm throwing that as sort of the final question, and then we take the final wrap up.
So something that can be done is, one, showing examples of the importance of what this means. So showing an example of how, if you mold a good family, how it can impact the home, in that we have to let persons know you have to build your family relationship. I can give a good example of a family relationship. I can expose somebody to a good example of a family relationship. But if they're currently in a family situation that does not look hopeful, that's not encouraging, it is not going to be as impactful as we want it to be. So for me, it's trying to figure out what are the programs that we need to implement, if it is that we need to start within the schools, as to how we can foster better family relationships. One of the schools, I can't remember if it was Evesham, they have like a father's lunch where they invite fathers to come and sit with the children at lunch. And sometimes they would tell stories, or they would just sit and have that moment with their children, spending positive family. So small things like it's starting within the school, that is important. Within the church, you talked about it. When you go to church camp, how can you use that to foster and encourage? And it has to be done at different levels. So not just the children, but the parents as well, because it's important for parents to be able to identify what are the things that we need to change, what are the things that we need to improve, because we have to understand that everybody would have grown up differently. What I think might be the best way to raise my family may not be effective enough in the generation that now exists. So how can you bridge the gap between those two generations to make sure that it's a positive family relationship that you're building?
And that's why we have constant educational awareness and practical in that. I'm thinking not only bringing them to you, but you going to them, go in the community. You can have different dramas that depict both sides, positive family type and the negative family type, and you educate them along that line. We talk about support, how effective are support groups to a family, especially when a family is going through crisis, how effective that is, and parenting skills. It is said that we go to school to learn to do everything else, but we do not go to school to learn to be a parent. Sometimes parenthood is just thrust upon you. I mean, you get married, you have your child, nobody taught you how to. So we can have parenting sessions, practical sessions, where you carry a program there where they would like, and even if you don't get all, I can remember one senator said to me years ago, Miss Ambrose, what's Aki then? Miss Aki, if you don't win all, someone you would win. Someone, the seed will be planted in someone, and that someone that the seed planting would be able to plant the seed in someone else. So it's important that we have constant educational awareness. I don't downplay that, because I have seen the effect of it, and many of our families today need it.
You know, you mentioned drama, and I was thinking of arts in general, and I asked myself, we produce a lot of art. When I say art, I'm talking performing arts, cultural arts. I'm wondering the extent to which our artistic productions, music, plays, you know, how well are they doing for us as it relates to inculcating, you know, family values? It's really something. That's a whole nother discussion, maybe, right? But it's a good point to raise. We need our singers, our musicians, our actors, our visual artists to produce things that help to, you know, uplift our families. Now, our final question, and I asked this one because our time is up, is 10 commandments for families. I'm going to ask each panelist to give me 2 or 3. All right, we touched on a few of them, but if you were to, we collectively, this is a group project, right? We want to give the audience 10 commandments for families. All right, so try not to repeat what somebody else has said before. All right, so as you give me your couple. Whoever wants to start.
So I want to say cultivate gratitude. Appreciate persons for who they are. Sometimes people do things and they are not being appreciated for it. So we have to try and appreciate persons for what they do. And especially in families, sometimes it's looked over.
Because it's family.
Because it's family, it's looked over. But the wives want to know that I am, whatever I did, you are grateful for it. Say thanks. Say I appreciate what you did. So cultivate gratitude and appreciation for each family member.
Right,
so you're not singling out. So each family member, because we are all different. And we all bring to the family something different. So we should appreciate them for the difference and tell them it. Also, we need to create a safe and nurturing environment for our children, for the family, where when your children leave school, they're excited to come home. When your husband leave work, he's excited to come home, or the wife leave work, she's excited to come home. So create a safe and nurturing environment, because in some families, when the husband finish work, he won't go home. He probably want to go online with the boys or something, because when he goes home, is stressed. So we need to cultivate that, or create, that nurturing and safe environment for families. So those are two commandments from
two solid ones there. Thou shalt create a safe environment. Who's next? Okay.
So it kind of touched on what I wanted to say, so I should have probably gone first. But creating a positive environment. We have this thing that we spent time together, but was it quality, positive time together? So make sure you have quality time with your family members, because this is an opportunity to build. It's an opportunity to learn. There's always something to learn. There's always something for a parent to teach a child to teach a parent, a husband to teach a wife, and vice versa. So take that time to have positive quality time with each other. And two, learn how to cope positively with what is happening. Within your home environment, practice proper coping mechanisms. For parents, be an example of what you want your children, or how you want your children to react in certain situations. If you are going to burst out and argue and blow up at every situation, that is what your child is going to eventually learn how to do. So foster a positive coping environment so that your child would know how to react, and so that you will have that positive reaction as well. Because if you don't cope well with situations, that can also break down the relationship.
Definitely. All right, moving along.
This is a Christian program. Thou shalt love the Lord, thy God, and thou shalt respect thy mother and father. Right? You can put that as one if you want. I don't know. Right?
Okay, so put God first.
Yes, put God first. And
Love your family.
I'll stick to the spiritual theme and say prayer.
Prayer.
Yeah. Make prayer.
What the saying goes, the family that prays together stays together. So you're looking at the spirituality of the family. That should have been number one.
Some people watching may remember Sister Britton. Right? You remember Sister Britton? She had a plaque in her home, and I'll never forget a poem. It said, houses are built of brick and stone, and homes are built of love alone. Right? And some of the things that y'all express shows that love is essential.
Definitely.
Right? And important.
All right. Last but not least.
Thou shalt value and appreciate family resources. By that I mean, yes, if you don't value the resources within the family, you tend to squander, you tend to have sometimes unexpected expectations, unrealistic expectations, and it creates tension.
Okay.
Then when it comes to passing on, I've seen too many families get torn apart by inheritance because they have not been taught early to respect the family resources and how that resource is passed from one generation to the next.
It's a very interesting one. Very important one, practical.
Yes?
Yeah.
Number 2, thou shalt learn to, I want to put it identity. There must be an identity.
Okay.
By that I mean, every child needs to know who is his or her father and mother. There are too many families where children don't know. That creates a lot of problems. I've had a 37-year-old guy. I visited with him. He was terminally ill, and that lad died. Knowing or hearing this was his father, and one of the things he said to me, he said, Isaacs, you know that man never one day said to me, I'm his son. That is a tragedy. So every child needs to know the parents, and they need to know the family too. Identify. Thou shalt be able to identify with a father and a mother and a family. Those are two.
Yes, two very good. You could give me another one to make 10.
You want that?
That one. Yes?
Okay.
I think that mic is done.
No. Okay. I was just saying practice forgiveness and reconciliation within the family.
Very
Sometimes
important.
it's hard, and that's probably why people die, and they said, my father or my mother, they have not told me that
They were sorry.
they are sorry.
Yeah.
And I think sorry is a word that is hard to come out of a lot of persons' mouth. And if we would just say, I am sorry or I forgive you, that is going to heal a lot of wounds. So a lot of wounds are left open because we are afraid to say, or we refuse to say, or we feel we're too big to say that we are sorry, or I forgive you, and try to reconcile or build back the fence. The fence is broken, it's not torn apart, it's just broken, but it can be rebuilt by forgiveness.
Very, very important note to end on. We have covered some good ground. I think we have shared some very valuable points. Unfortunately, this is the last session that we'll be taking on the family. Really want to thank you for joining us or watching this program. Trust that you would have benefited from it in some way. Really want to thank and appreciate our panelists for giving of their time and knowledge and experience this evening. And thank you very much for sharing. It was indeed rich and very much appreciated. So, thou shalt cultivate gratitude, create a nurturing environment, spend quality time together, cope positively, develop positive coping mechanisms, put God first in your family, support each other during crises, pray together, value the resources of your family, foster identity within your family, and practice forgiveness and reconciliation. A lot of food for thought there. I trust that these will be of value to all our families as we strive to improve them and foster a society in which our families are strengthened and the nation on a whole, and the world on a whole will be benefited. So thanks again, everyone, for being here this evening, and God bless until next time. All the best to you, and take care.